Hey everyone, it's Braulio Rosa with the Broward County Bar Association. And I'm here today doing our Broward Bar Buzz video podcast. And I'm excited to have John Uustal of the Kelley Uustal Law Firm. We're going to be doing a series of various videos that will really educate trial lawyers on, well, taking different cases and why you should and so forth. And so that's the topic today. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So today's topic is why lawyers have a duty to take cases that would seem they would be bad for business. Other lawyers wouldn't take them. So John, tell me what you mean by that.
So, I'm sure we all remember back in law school that you have certain ethical obligations as lawyers. It's a profession to take, to represent clients who can't find representation. But that's not exactly what I'm talking about. But I think in every area of the law, it's something that we have to remember. It is a profession. We're lucky to be able to be doing it. It's a privilege, really, and our society doesn't work without lawyers. And there's underrepresented parts of our society that because they don't have lawyers, their lives are not as good as they could be, and there's a lot of unfairness, and lawyers can do something about it. This is a totally separate thing, but I just read a book called The Final Case it's about a lawyer, and it's kind of a courtroom drama, but it's really about the good that lawyers can do, the small little things about how we can make people's lives better. It's a really moving book. I recommend it. It's really short, but it makes you proud to be a lawyer.
It's true what you said. There's been a study, and it's been a while, but the Florida Bar did a study, and it said something to the effect of, I think it's like 20% of the people can afford a lawyer. And that's mostly corporations in the 1, 2, 3%, whatever it is. The average middle class person struggles to be able to afford a lawyer. And there's always a joke about lawyers, but lawyers are the people that, when you need them, you need them. They're the people that come in and help you when you're getting the bad end of the stick. Like we were talking before we jumped on, and I won't get into the case, but you're there to help someone. In this case, it's someone that can help themselves. But in this case, in other cases, I know you've stood up for people that couldn't afford it, that no way that they could have afforded having a John Uustal jump in for them. So
so thank you, Braulio. But contingency fee lawyers, I think the contingency fee was an advance in the sense that it allowed people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford lawyers to have lawyers. And obviously, I think most people know I only do contingency fee work.
Right.
But the genius of the contingency fee is it made it economically feasible for lawyers to take cases that they might otherwise not be able to do. There's a separate issue about access to lawyers. Justice Gorsuch has a book recently that talks about this a little bit, like what can we do as lawyers to bring down the cost of lawyers, right? It's not the first thing that we think about as lawyers, like how can we be less costly, but lawyers are fundamental to our society. The society doesn't work, and it's just true that inequality is the highest level it's been maybe ever in the United States. Certainly not since the Gilded Age, but probably it's worse now. Well, if part of that is because a whole group of people can't afford lawyers. Lawyers have gotten a lot more expensive, and that's not good for society. So that's part of this. I mean, I think we all, no matter what we do in the law, should remember that when we can help somebody who needs help, maybe sometimes we need to find a way, even if it's not economically to our, even if, look, let me put it frankly, like we're not going to make money. Sometimes, whether you call it pro bono or a discount, whatever, sometimes, but that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is a larger issue, and it's going to be solved systemically. So if people can think about how we can make and that's why I brought up Justice Gorsuch's book, because he has some ideas that are, systemic changes that might make lawyers cost less.
Well, talking about that, you mentioned, cases, and maybe they're not as lucrative that some lawyers would take, but yet you feel obligated sometimes to take those cases that on the surface look like, may not be a winner.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what, the reason I started thinking about this topic is what you just asked about, which is in my field, which is contingency fee work. We ended up, over a 2-year period, I noticed there were 4 cases that we had taken that had been turned down by a lot of other law firms. One of them had been turned down by 12 other law firms. And when I talk about that case sometimes at legal conferences, and people always come up to me afterwards and say, was it me? Was it us? Was it our firm? Did we turn down that giant case? And so it made me think, like, why did 12 firms turn that down? And I think there's 2 reasons, and it made me a better lawyer once I realized it. So one of the reasons is, as we become better lawyers, as we become more experienced, it's easy to kind of ballpark things, right? Because we're almost always right. You can look at a case and very quickly say, that's almost definitely not a case, or that's probably not a case. And so it's time efficient to just not even spend any time or money investigating those potential cases, because we're usually right that they're with our first instinct. But the thing is, sometimes we're wrong, right? When we say it's probably not a case, well, by definition, it's not definitely not a case. If we investigate all of those, some of them will turn out to be cases. So if you think of a little girl who's been horribly injured, can't find a lawyer, even though in reality, there was some very devious corporate cover-up that injured her, or a little boy in another case who needed medical care, and people just didn't see the case at first and turned it down. Our justice system is failing those people if they can't get a lawyer when they have a legitimate and a righteous case. So on the one hand, just because of our professional kind of obligation to make the system work, I have now started encouraging myself and other lawyers I talk to don't be so quick. Yes, you have a lot of experience that tells you that you can quickly say and probably be right that that's not a case, but that's not good enough when there's a client who really desperately needs a lawyer. I would say you've got to spend the time and money, even though you know it's probably going to be fruitless. But the second thing I started to realize is, when we had those 4 cases in a 2-year period, yeah, we investigated a lot of others that we were right. We didn't think they were cases, and they weren't, and so there's a cost in time and money. But from purely a business perspective, those 4 cases were very big cases. So I think it's sometimes short-term thinking, and what do they say, penny wise and pound foolish, to turn down cases as a contingency fee lawyer that where it looks like there's probably not a case, but there might be. And if everyone investigates all those cases, certainly the justice system will be better. There will be a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get a lawyer who have righteous cases. And there will even be some corporate misconduct or insurance company misconduct that is caught that otherwise wouldn't have been. And then on top of it all, those cases can be worthwhile business-wise. So I just think in the long term, it's also a good business decision, not just good for the community, not just good for our society, not just good for the little kids or the families that need a lawyer in those situations, but also it can be good for the lawyer. And what made me think of that was when everyone's saying, was it me? Did I turn that case down? Because they don't want to think that they passed up the fee, the contingency fee on that case. But 13 law firms in one of those cases did, or we were the 13th. But
that's reminiscent. Is that the case you and I discussed about the child with the exploding pot that burned that child?
That's one of the 4 cases. Yeah, that was only turned down by 2 other lawyers. But I mean, think about it. That case, I mean, it's somewhat well known. It was a $27 million settlement, and that little girl, I would say, certainly would have had a hellish existence if her case wasn't won, but might have even died. And that was, we talk about corporate cover-ups, that was a cover-up. That's why it didn't appear to be a case at first, but it led to, it wasn't just that pressure cooker, but others too that were defective. And anyway, that was one of those cases.
So can you talk about the case that 13 other law firms
it
gave up?
It was a little boy who was being pulled by his babysitter on, like those little red wagons, and
like the ones we used to when we were kids.
Yeah, very common when we were just talking. We're about the same
red
age.
Flyers or what were
Yeah,
they called?
exactly.
Yeah.
They're not that common these days, I
No.
guess. But one of those.
That was a much simpler time.
It
Everyone's doing this now.
right. Well, he kind of jumped out and darted into the road and got hit by a car. And was very badly injured. His doctor said he'd never walk again. Well, he's walking now. He got great medical care. But at the time, it just looked like a little kid darts in the road, gets hit. And I guess that's why it was turned down by so many people.
Sure.
But my partner, Todd Falzone, did a lot of investigative work just trying to say, well, what, let's look at the big picture. Just kept looking. And after a few months, it was in an area where there was road construction, and the sidewalk was supposed to be closed, right? It was a very, the way traffic was rerouted close to the sidewalk, and it was required to be closed. There was actually, it wasn't. So, they should have never been in that spot. The babysitter was young, and then the kid was, very young. There was. It took a little digging to figure out that there was that sidewalk was supposed to be closed.
Closed off.
Yeah.
So now he's got the resources to take care of him medically for as long as needed.
Yeah, I mean that's the sad truth in today. Sometimes, if you don't get the optimal medical care, you don't get good outcomes.
So the simple reject case that a personal injury attorney would see, a kid darts out, ends up being good business when people probably thought it was going to be bad business.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when I talk about this whether I should start with the business part or the professional part.
It's good business for everyone. It's good business for society that you're taking care of society. I think you're helping this kid in that sense. It's a win for them, and it's a win for your firm too.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Absolutely.
You're working to take care of this kid.
I agree with you. I think that both of those things speak to people. For some people, one of them speaks more, and for other people, the other one speaks more. But I truly believe it has certainly been true for us that it has not been a charity for us to spend a lot of time. Look, you have to also include the many cases that we spent time and money on that it turned out there was no righteous lawsuit there, and so we didn't bring a lawsuit, and that cost time and money. So from a business perspective, you have to look at that too. Yeah. But I can tell you without a doubt for my law firm, it has not been some type of charitable endeavor, although it looked like it at times, and I can tell you my partners were upset at me at various times. But the other part of it is true too. It feels amazing to have a job that gives you meaning, and when you can help somebody that it looked like wasn't going to get help. The case you brought up about the pressure cooker, I mean, that there was actually an overt cover-up in that case, and there were other people in danger, and because of a defect, and if that wasn't revealed, that would have continued in just the same way. So it
It's
feels
the
great.
bean counters, right, that we hear about back in the day with seat belts and everything. They figure, well, if X amount of people get hurt, it's cheaper to deal with that. But for what you've done, because of what you've done, you prevented other people from getting hurt.
Yeah, in some cases,
Hopefully.
that's true. Yeah, exactly. I think that the justice system absolutely does that, and there's great lawyers, judges, juries out there definitely have done that. And this was one case where, we were able to expose something just like that. So it feels good, and people. I don't know many people go to law school because they want to make a lot of money. There's a lot of easier ways to make money. Because most of the people who go to law school, it's the same, they get inspired by something, a movie or, but they want to make the world a better place. So when you can, take cases like that, investigate cases like that, and even if it doesn't turn out to be a case, get some answers for a family, it's a great life. So that's what I recommend to people. Take cases that other people won't, at least investigate them.
Perfect. John, any last thoughts on that?
I really appreciate, this is my first time here. You got an amazing setup. I'm glad you let me be a part of it. So
Dragged
thank you.
in.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. John Uustal, I appreciate you coming by, and I look forward to talking with you on some other topics to educate our community.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Braulio.
And thank you all for joining us today.